There's a mushroom growing in a plastic tub in my kitchen right now, and it's doing something that sounds made up. It's hunting, quietly trapping and eating tiny living things for food on my counter while I sleep. I'll tell you exactly what it is and how it pulls that off in about 2 minutes. But first, the question you actually came here for. Can you really grow healing mushrooms inside a normal home with no air conditioning, no grow tent, no expensive lab gear for around 20 bucks? Yes, a flat out yes. I've killed enough grow bags to know every way a beginner trips up, so stick with me. And fair warning, mushroom number 3 breaks the one rule everybody swears is unbreakable. It actually wants the heat. Let's start with the easiest one on earth, the oyster. If you've never grown anything in your life, this is your mushroom. Oysters are aggressive in the best way. They colonize fast, they forgive small mistakes, and they'll fruit on stuff you are about to throw out. Used coffee grounds, soaked cardboard, straw. And remember that worm-hunting mushroom I opened with? This is the one. Oyster mushrooms are quietly carnivorous. Their thin white threads release a substance that stuns tiny soil worms called nematodes, then digest them for an extra hit of nitrogen. A meat-eating mushroom sitting on your countertop. Wild. On the wellness side, oysters are often valued for beta-glucans, and research suggests certain oyster strains naturally contain lovastatin, the same compound used in some cholesterol medications. I'm not telling you to toss your prescription. I'm telling you your dinner is way more interesting than you thought. To grow them, grab fresh spent coffee grounds, still warm from the machine if you can, since the brewing already gave them a rough pasteurization. Mix in oyster spawn, pack it loose into a clear tub or a bag with a few small holes poked in it, and wait. They're happy anywhere from the low 60s to the high 70s Fahrenheit, so most kitchens already qualify. Give them a mist when the surface looks dry. Total cost, if you grab a small bag of spawn and reuse a tub, usually under 20 bucks, and your next batch is basically free. One smart move people skip: match the strain to your room. Pink oysters love heat and fruit fast in a warm apartment, while blue and gray oysters like it a little cooler. Pick the one that fits your climate, and you barely have to fight anything. Cook them all the way through, always, never raw. A quick sear in butter with a pinch of salt, and they crisp up at the edges like little scallops. Tiny plot twist: tear them by hand instead of chopping, and they grab onto sauce way better. Now the one everybody wants, lion's mane. This is the shaggy white one that looks like a frozen waterfall, and it's become the darling of the focus and memory crowd. Lion's mane has long been used as a tonic, and research suggests it may support nerve health through compounds that nudge something called nerve growth factor. May support. Research suggests. I'm keeping the wording honest here, because the science is genuinely exciting and genuinely early. Here's the part that surprises beginners. Lion's mane doesn't need a swamp. It fruits beautifully at normal room temperature, somewhere in the mid-60s to low 70s, and it doesn't demand the brutal humidity people assume. A grow block on your windowsill, tented loosely with a clear bag and misted a couple times a day, will push out those white spines like clockwork. You can almost watch it grow. Here's a tell most folks miss though. Lion's mane wants little bursts of fresh air. Crack that bag open for a minute or two each day. If the air gets stale and carbon dioxide builds up, it grows long and stringy and coral-like instead of forming that tidy round pom-pom. More fresh air, prettier mushroom. A pre-made lion's mane block usually lands right around or just past that $20 line. And honestly, it's the easiest way in. When it fruits, slice it thick and pan fry it. People swear it tastes like crab or lobster, and they're not exaggerating. The texture is the magic. You can also dry the pieces and grind them into powder to stir into your coffee, which is exactly how a lot of those fancy mushroom coffee brands got started. All right, mushroom 3, the rule breaker. Reishi. Most growing guides tell you to fight the heat. Reishi laughs at that. This one actually wants it warm, thriving up around the high 70s into the 80s, which makes it perfect for anybody in a hot apartment with no AC. While everyone else is sweating through summer, reishi is having the time of its life. I learned this the hard way, babying it in a cool room and getting almost nothing for my trouble. Reishi has been used in traditional practice for centuries and is often valued for beta-glucans and triterpenes, with research suggesting it may support the immune system and a calmer mood. And it's got a personality quirk. If it doesn't get enough fresh air, it grows these strange red antlers instead of the classic flat cap. Some growers choke the airflow on purpose, just because the antlers look incredible on a shelf. One honest catch: you don't eat reishi. It's woody and bitter, more like chewing a tree branch than a meal. So you make tea or a tincture out of it. For tea, slice it, dry it, and simmer the pieces low and slow for an hour or two. For the full effect, growers do a dual extraction, which just means soaking it in alcohol to pull out the triterpenes, simmering it separately in water for the beta-glucans, then combining the two. A single block runs near $20 and gives you a ton, since a little dried reishi goes a long way. Quick caution before you go brew a barrel of the stuff. Reishi may interact with blood thinners and blood pressure medication, so if you take either one, check with your doctor first. Easy to skip past, important to hear. Number 4 flies under the radar, and that's a shame: turkey tail. You've walked past this one on 100 fallen logs, those thin, banded, fan-shaped brackets that look like, well, a turkey's tail. It's one of the most studied medicinal mushrooms out there, traditionally used to support immune function, with research zeroing in on two compounds called PSK and PSP. In Japan, a turkey tail extract has been used for decades right alongside conventional medicine, which is pretty wild for a fungus most people step over on a hike. Turkey tail is almost insultingly tough. It shrugs off contamination, handles a wide range of room temperatures, and barely complains about anything. And here's where people slip up. There are lookalikes, especially false turkey tail, which is smooth on the underside. Real turkey tail has a layer of tiny pores under there, almost like a faint white sponge. Flip it over, look for the pores, and you'll never mix them up. Since you're growing from clean, labeled spawn instead of foraging, you're already safe, but knowing the trick makes you the smart one at the table. You don't eat this one either, since it's leathery and tough. Dry it, snap it into pieces, and simmer it into a tea or a broth. A lot of folks drop a few dried pieces into a slow-cooked bone broth or soup, then fish them out before serving, so the good stuff leaches in without anybody having to chew on cardboard. And the last one is the flavor champion: shiitake. Shiitake is the perfect bridge because it's genuinely delicious and it carries real wellness cred, often valued for a compound called lentinan that research suggests may support immune health. It grows indoors on supplemented sawdust blocks, and unlike the others, it's got a fun trick. When the block stops fruiting, you soak it in cold water overnight to shock it, and it wakes right back up for another round. A free second harvest from the same block. Temperature-wise, it's forgiving, happy in that broad mid-60s to mid-70s range, and a block sits comfortably right around the $20 mark. Now a warning almost nobody gives beginners. Always cook shiitake all the way through. Raw or barely cooked shiitake can trigger a temporary, itchy, whip-like rash in some people, called shiitake dermatitis, because that lentinan breaks down with heat. Cook it through and you're completely fine. Sliced, dried, and rehydrated later, shiitake turns into a savory bomb that makes soup taste like you simmered it all day. So let's pull the practical side together, because growing is only half the game. After harvest, your best friend is drying. A cheap dehydrator, or even an oven on its lowest setting with the door cracked, pulls the moisture out so nothing molds. Dried mushrooms keep for months in a sealed jar in a dark cupboard. And drying actually concentrates the beta-glucans, so you're not losing anything, you're gaining. Grind the dried pieces in a basic coffee grinder, and you've got instant powder for teas, broths, smoothies, or that homemade mushroom coffee. Contamination is the only real enemy, and it tips its hand early. Healthy growth smells sweet and faintly mushroomy. If you ever see fuzzy green, that's usually trichoderma mold, and the move is simple. Bag it, throw it outside, don't argue with it. If a block smells sour or rotten, same answer. Keep your hands clean, keep a little fresh air moving, and you'll dodge most problems before they start. One last thing on spores, since hardly anyone mentions it. Reishi and oysters drop a lot of spores, and if you've got asthma or any mold sensitivity, harvest before they release that fine dust and keep the room ventilated. Budget reality check, because I promised you cheap. The truest under 20 path is oysters on free coffee grounds, where your only real cost is a small bag of spawn. The blocks for lion's mane, reishi, turkey tail, and shiitake hover right around 20 each, and every single one can be cold shocked or reused for a second flush, which quietly cuts your real cost in half. If you're brand new and you just want an easy win, start with oyster, then lion's mane. They'll give you a fast harvest, build your confidence, and honestly, watching that first cluster show up overnight is a little addictive. If this video was helpful, do me one tiny favor. Drop a comment that just says, yes. That one word tells me you want more videos like this, and it genuinely keeps me motivated to keep making them. So tell me, which mushroom are you growing first? And if you've got a friend who swears they have a black thumb, send this their way, because this is the one kind of growing that forgives almost everything.